What's up, guys, and welcome to the Reload episode 9. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we totally appreciate it. You guys coming in, watching the live show or the VOD, whatever it may be, we're happy to have you and happy to bring you the latest in Counter-Strike happening every week on our live broadcast from the UGC studios. So thank you for tuning in. As usual, can't say it enough. We got a pretty stacked show laid out for everybody today. The Star Series and I-League Season 6 Playoffs is happening on Friday, tomorrow. So we're going to go through some of the games, some of the news. Obviously, a huge patch update, Vitality's entry into CSGO, and some more news coming at you. So let's just get right into it. It's just me today, so I'll be here with you the whole time. And we're live, so we got the live chat here going. I got the Twitch up, so show me some love, show me some hate, whatever you want. Just bring it on, baby. We're ready to take it. So first off, most notably, big news from Betway and NIP, Ninjas in Pyjamas, just extended their deal. They've been in an exceptional partnership for quite some time. They just inked a 7-figure 3-year deal, so you'll see plenty of that amazing Betway and NIP content coming at you. It's been thrilling to watch, to see the stuff that they go ahead and produce. Betway is just, aside being a market leader in the betting space, CSGO especially, they just really nail the market and everything about it, the content, really well. If you've ever seen that Betway for the love of the game chicken commercial, go check that out because that shit is absolutely hilarious. So happy to see that. Always exceptional with seeing that sportsbook and organization team and partnering up for sure. But also you have Vitality entering CSGO. That was probably the biggest news this week. Here you got the trailer. The team itself features the core of Envy that won DreamHack Open, Klojna. I hope I'm saying that right, in 2015. They also got a couple players from G2, NBK, and Happy brought in on a free transfer. So the full French roster consists of them, NBK and Happy, as well as Apex, RPK, and Zywoo. So it's a pretty stellar team, I'd say. Their first event will be the IEM Chicago qualifier. So barring they qualify, we might be able to see them at Chicago at that event. That'll be crazy. We're trying to get out there, so hopefully we can and bring you some interviews and footage from them at that event. So that'll definitely be an interesting story to follow. But I think most importantly, the biggest news, and if you follow anyone that is involved in CSGO on Twitter or Facebook, whatever it may be, you've heard about the patch notes, right? The patch came out on the 9th, so that was on Tuesday, and it featured a few, obviously, patches or edits to the weapons and, most importantly, the economy. So taking a look at some of the weapon patch notes right here, you see the C7 had increased recoil and fire and accuracy. The Tech 9 had reduced fire and accuracy, which I suppose would mean that the accuracy was increased, but this is the way that it was worded on the CSGO dev site. The AUG had the price reduced to $31.50, and so did the SG, had a price reduction of $27.50. So a couple things to real note. The Tech 9 still is sort of competitive in sort of its competitive viability. It's still useless, honestly, is the term that most people are getting from this. We saw Gambit try this out after losing the first pistol against Vega. StarSeries was the first tournament to adapt the patch notes, to my understanding. Tech 9 verdict, it still sucks. Okay, so nothing has really changed there. You saw the edits on the weapon, or the accuracy was really minuscule, just again not enough to make it that much more viable. Here you have the C7 pre and post update. So if you look at the spreads, you see that obviously pre-update's a lot tighter, whereas the post update's definitely a wider spread, a bit more erratic. It changes instead of kind of barring to the right, sort of goes in a zigzag motion. Credit to Sloth Squadron for this graphic. Pulled it off Reddit. Definitely brings to light sort of the changes in that CZ. So CZ, obviously a very strong tool, especially in the hands of a professional player. Will that increase in recoil and inaccuracy kind of change how pros use it? Might take some time to adapt. Obviously going to raise the skill gap in terms of using that weapon skillfully, right? So we'll see kind of how these patches unfold as time goes on. You still see the C7 being pulled out on the Star Series. Obviously a jarring change to happen in the middle of a tournament for sure. So going back to the AUG and the SG, right? So they had the price change, and now both weapons are only $50 more expensive than the AK and the M4. I almost said the MK. Is this a viably competitive AR now? The AUG only being $50 more. It has the scope and does a little bit more damage. So can we see pros start to pull this out? I don't really think we have yet, but maybe in time this might be something that the players start to adapt to a little bit, or maybe opt to use the AUG, the SG. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say, but it's probably the devs are kind of leaning people in that direction to kind of change things up a bit. I mean, it's nice. Change is good. I welcome change. Everyone should welcome change. So that's an interesting topic to have. But most importantly, the most critical part from this patch was the economy changes. So here you have it right now. The adjusted the start of the half economy. So this was kind of a little bit confusing, so I'll break it down for everyone. Basically, you start the half of each round, the first round and the 16th round, with a 1-round losing bonus. So instead of that first loss bonus being 1,400, it's now 1,900, and then 2,400 for a subsequent loss, and so on and so forth. A lot of kind of things you can draw from this. Definitely people were blowing up about it, whether this kind of forces, potentially even thinking about a T side that would run in and just go for a bomb plant, no kills, die, and get that sum or surplus of cash in the bank. So definitely a lot to consider here. It sort of adds a bit more oomph in terms of the second round force for both sides of the map. More utility to execute on the T side, diffuse kits on CT, head armor for both. You don't also necessarily think that an extra smoke or a molly or a flash is a game changer, but in the hands of professionals, it absolutely can be. There's also the opportunity to eco in the second round with a loss bonus and get somewhat of a limited full buy, head armor, a bunch of utility, guns, everything. So this is definitely going to change things up a bit. It might seem like maybe a minor adjustment to the economy, but I think that as players start to adapt to this change, that it's going to have some implications. So whether or not this is going to change the balance of the game is really a story that time is going to tell. You've seen a little bit of the use in Star Series right now, game with the Tech 9s, and people just sort of finding out what is the best strategy to kind of implement this money into their game plan and strategy. So that's basically a brief rundown of the patch notes. If you guys have any questions, definitely throw it in the chat. We can go over some of that. But let's get into the StarSeries Playoffs, which is happening right now. Bit of a crazy tournament, especially with ESL going on. I'm sorry, the EPL and ECS online tournaments. So, this has been an absolute shit show, right? The amount of games going on is crazy, and the amount of teams that are participating in all these different events after coming off of London, ESL New York. It's kind of insane. Mousesports is obviously a huge topic to hit on in this conversation specifically. A bit of bad blood arising as well, right? We love that. Bring it on. We do have a tweet we could bring up real fast that kind of touches on some of this good banter right now. You see Device And I'll just read it for those. I don't know why people want more beef in top-level CS. Most people are friendly, which is true because we see each other every day at events and practice against each other all the time. McGregor-type hype would be fun, but it can't happen because of the environment. And it's just absolutely funny is Taco coming in right after that and saying, "Fuck you, Nikolai noob." That's honestly hilarious in my opinion. But it raises the question, is that something that makes CS a little bit more exciting? Yes, these guys are friends. They run into each other all the time. They're playing the same game, part of the same sport, so it makes sense. But is those rivalries something that can make the game a little bit more exciting? I definitely think so. And kind of the first topic to get into would be Mousesports and Big and their sort of rivalry or bad blood, a lot of banter going on in the middle of the games. Sort of raises those tensions. It's fun to watch. Mousesports obviously being eliminated by Big, which was sort of shocking. But again, in the Swiss system, you really don't know what's going to happen. It's a best of one, a little bit more cheeky format, opportunity for lesser class teams to kind of outclass the top tier teams or more skilled teams. A little bit controversial, the Swiss, but again, going into the playoffs, it's now a best of 3, so now they get a little bit more CS action moving forward. So we do have the bracket for you, so if we could pull that up real fast, you can see the teams that advanced. First round, you have Optic Renegades Ents against Big, which is definitely going to be a really exciting match. Vega, Fragsters, and then NRG against North. A little bit of a crazy bracket when you look at the teams that entered this tournament, right? Ty Lu, Gambit, who looked exceptional at ESL New York, beating Navi twice, where no one thought that was possible, and best of 3s nonetheless. They went down, losing to Fragsters North. Vega Squadron also looking very strong right now. Finished on the lower end of the table, but still in the playoffs nonetheless. Really, there's a lot to go through here, so we'll definitely try to work our way through this. And I see we got a question in the chat. I want to address this real fast. Do you think the competition has been more exciting since Australis aren't just steamrolling everyone? My answer is yes, absolutely. You know, when you see Australis come in to a tournament, they're always the team to beat, which is an exciting narrative to follow, but you know, when they're out of the picture, it sort of evens the playing field. It's like, and now these less strong teams or mid-tier teams to even low-tier teams are now able to compete, you know, and they're in the conversation. They're in the picture. They're in the tournament. So definitely it's exciting. I don't want to say that I'm not welcoming Australis into the tournament because they're the best team in the world right now, and that says a lot. But certainly when they're out of the equation and they're not in that algorithm, it is exciting to watch, you know, when you have these sort of mid-tier tournament lineups. But moving forward, you had Mousesports Big eliminated Mousesports, and Mousesports just really went down choking hard. Big has played exceptional this tournament. Smooya has been going beast mode the entire time. You see them getting really hyped. That was their game against Mousesports, where they had a pretty convincing lead. I think it was 11-4 at one point. Mouse was able to claw their way back into overtime, and I believe the finishing score was 19-17 in favor of Big. You also had Smooya pulling out the auto rifle here. Now, this was just a crazy thing to witness alone, getting mad hype. Look at him go. Smooya and the auto rifle, right? That was a huge, like, what the hell moment in the tournament when he pulled it out. HLTV did an interview with him afterwards talking about why the auto rifle, right? Was it mind games? Like, what was it? And he explained that he had purchased it by accident. And what he actually tried to do was pause and go for reset the round so that he could, you know, buy the weapon he intended on, imagine the AWP or something else. But I think that Mousesports were not having that at all, and this sort of even poured more fuel on the fire, which he explained in the interview. And he even said, well, you know, I'm just going to run with this auto rifle, and managed to get a 3K out of it, you know, looking sharp as hell. So it was pretty exciting to watch. You don't see that pulled out very often. Obviously, the AWP is the more favorable gun in that class, right? But seeing Smooya pick that up and do what he did with it was like, okay, yeah, I will take this gun and I'm going to run over your whole team with it. Stellar. Big, they beat Complexity, Tyloo, Mouse. Can they go all the way, right? Big is a team that, they have a strong leadership. IGL Gabi. And also just they have a deep team. Their team has a lot of skill built around it. And, they sort of not necessarily fall in this wild card class, but they just seem to they can't really go over that hump to be winning these tournaments or placing high consistently. I think that a major turning point was on their home soil in Cologne, right, where they reached grand finals against Na'Vi and put up a damn good fight. But since then, Big has sort of had this team. We put some expectations in their bucket then, and you can't really decide, is this team really good enough to go all the way here? So looking back at the bracket now, probably at their first game against Ents is going to be tough. Ents is looking very strong, beating Tyloo, Imperial, Mouse. Just looking very strong. You have Renegades is actually looking pretty good. So is Optic, Vega, and NRG is looking super strong. North, I'm not really that convinced on yet, but we'll kind of touch back on them in a bit. But you have like this kind of group of like mid-tier, like scrappy teams. Like they're good and they know how to play and kind of get into each other's heads. So right now the playoff pool is definitely an interesting one to watch when it starts tomorrow. We'll kind of see how things unravel. In terms of Big making it to the finals, assuming they can get past Ents, I think that they'll also face a pretty tough or close match. They have been known to struggle a little bit against Optics sometimes. Those are close games for sure. But barring they make it to the grand finals, I mean, it's going to be a tough road for any team here. It looks pretty close around the board. You have maybe a little bit less faith, but in some than others. But Big is certainly a strong contender here to win this event if they come out on fire like they have been. And momentum is a huge part of CS:GO. If a team is feeling it, as you see the emotion and that B-roll we ran of Big. These teams are feeling it. They're getting hyped up, and they're super excited. And Smooya especially is just an absolute animal on the stage. I love it. Let's run this clip. This one comes from Rivalry GG. This is absolutely just fucking hilarious. I'm sorry for the language, but it really is. If you didn't catch the McGregor Khabib fight, he jumped over the octagon, attacked one of the coaches. Definitely a horrible scenario, but kind of reflects on Smooya's attitude through this event. Just an absolute madman, but having that kind of energy is infectious within the team. You know what I mean? You want to rally up your guys, bump them in the shoulder and go, let's fucking go. Let's do this. We can win this thing. And that's the energy that Smooya has been bringing to this team right here and in this tournament. Again, can they go all the way? It's certainly possible. It's certainly possible, and I have a good feeling about them. But yeah, they can sometimes drop the ball. So it'll be an interesting one to watch for sure. That game against Ents is going to be tough, in my opinion. It's either going to be close or Big is going to possibly stomp them if they come out on the right foot and put Ents on their back foot early. That's the way I'm seeing that match going. There's also Renegades looking very strong. They had just brought back their coach Kassad into the mix. You see this announcement from Renegades. He made a surprise visit with Renegades on Sunday at StarSeriesS6 to kind of join back in the team. They released this tweet yesterday saying he was back in the mix officially. But after his little stint away from the squad, I think it was for at least over a year, that he's back in the mix, and that probably has to do something with them performing the way they have. Taking a look at where they're at right now, they lost against CyberZen, but also then went on to beat Complexity, Tyloo, and Imperial. Solid results, strong wins. Really 16-9 against Complexity. 16-13 against Tyloo, a little too close for comfort. Imperial, beating them 16-12. It's a good looking, prospect for Renegades right now. Seeing them kind of traverse deep into the playoffs, though, doesn't seem too likely, in all honesty, just kind of with the caliber of teams that are right now. Them against Optic has the possibility of being pretty close, but Optic is definitely looking super strong, beating Big, Vega, Mouse, which are probably the teams in the best form aside from Energy and ENCE right now. But that's certainly a statement from Optic. You got Yugi, Config. These guys are just super star players. Bring a lot to the team, the atmosphere, the energy. So they're certainly in the conversation as well. Optic going all the way, possibly. It's so close. It's almost too close to call at this point. But yeah, I really do think that this is going to be Big's tournament, especially with Mousesports out of the picture, who just pretty much dropped the ball, just choking against ENCE, Optic, and Big. I mean, Mousesports. I say this every week. I swear to God, this team is a wild card. You never know when they're going to come out. They're a damn good team, like a damn fine team, top team in the world, but they just can't consistently make it to first, let alone the top four. You know what I mean? And like they're just too inconsistent. Their form fluctuates at an insane rate. You really can never bet on these guys doing it, you know what I mean? And after they won New York, everyone's thinking, or ESL New York, everyone's thinking, they're coming into Star Series and they got this shit on lock. No way. Do you know what we're talking about? We're talking about Mousesports. And I love the team. I support them. Like, I think I love Snacks. Chris J is incredible. Some of those flashy AWP kills you can see. Ropes, solid player. But they're just never in that proper consistent form. So seeing them fall out before playoffs here was almost sort of predictable in a weird way, being a top team, probably on paper the best team here at this event, having just come off that ESL New York. It's just so Mousesports. It's so Mousesports that they would drop out before playoffs. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. We got the chat up. Bring it on. I'm here. I got the gloves up. Like, prove me wrong. If we could bring up the bracket real quick, let's just run through those teams real fast and get sort of a little in depth in terms of predictions. We're talking Optic, Renegades. I think Renegades is definitely like climbing in terms of form right now, but Optic is just an overall strong team. They're consistent. They are very sharp with their strategies. You see them kind of fall apart sometimes under pressure, but they're always pretty strong-willed and heavy-handed in their operations and how they want to enter bomb sites or defend them. So in terms of that matchup, I'm going Optic. Big ENCE, definitely an interesting one, just because ENCE has been undefeated, taking the first seed in the playoff bracket. Big, though, a lot of energy, a whole shitload of momentum. You can't really take that away from them. Feeling it. Smooya. If Smooya keeps doing Smooya things, I think that Big will topple ENCE and beat Optic in a close game in the semifinals. In terms of Vega, Fraxer's definitely looking good. They beat Big. They beat Gambit. And they beat North. They lost one game to NRG on Mirage. But Vega, a team that had sort of come to life or, into our perspectives at the major. And you can't really say, who are these guys anymore, because now we know who they are, because they're at these tournaments beating teams like Gambit and Hellraisers. And it's like, okay, where have you been? But now you're here, so I guess it doesn't matter. It's against them, against Fragsters, I think should be a close game. I'm leaning towards Vega honestly. I think that their wins are a little bit more commanding than the ones for Fragsters. Like overtime against Big definitely is notable. 16-11 against Gambit. Stomped by Energy 16-5, who's another team to talk about, and then another close game against North, who, a month or two ago after Stockholm, when they beat Astralis, you're thinking North is the next second coming of God, but not necessarily anymore. Just falling apart. They had the changes. They dropped MSL, brought in Cadian. I think this is his first tournament with them. Just shaky. North is shaky. I'm not them taking first here at this tournament. Having to get across NRG, who's looking strong. Vega is also looking strong as well. Big is definitely the favorite in my opinion, and then having to get through either them, Optic, or any of the teams in the upper bracket just seems pretty unlikely right now unless they pull some sort of miracle, but I'm not one to believe in any of that. In terms of NRG and North, I'm going NRG, honestly. I'm going against the grain. They already beat North in the first round. What was the score? Jeez, we're gonna find this. They beat North. Let's just say that it was 16-12, so it was closer, but NRG has been looking good. They were looking good in New York. Just a younger team that is climbing up the rankings. They're looking better by the day, and it's this is their tournament to come in and kind of shake things up a bit. And I think that if they can get past North, then this team is probably the dark horse of the event, to say the least. So that's pretty much the coverage for the Star Series Season 6 playoffs happening in Kiev, Ukraine. Sort of this mid-tier tournament, and as one of our guests or viewers had said earlier, Astralis is out of the mix. FaZe is not here. Fnatic, Liquid. So it's sort of this nice kind of mid-tier tournament that's happening right now. And the teams are different than probably what most people had predicted. Again, Mouse is out, Gambit's out, who had been looking really strong. So Complexity too, which is sad because I thought, that they would do a lot better than they had, especially with the run at the major where everyone's like really getting behind this team in depth. And the players of Complexity, that had put in such a valiant effort in that event, to see them kind of go out 0-3 here was definitely a little upsetting. Hellraisers as well. You think Hellraisers is, again, this kind of scrappy, like peppery and fiery team that can definitely unnerve some of the best teams. You had seen them play against Liquid, I believe, at the major and kind of shake them up a bit. You have Woxic, who is a game-changing southpaw AWPer. Some of the most flashy kills you'll ever see. And, again, you see them and Mouse out of this event. So you have an interesting lineup. You have an opportunity for teams that you don't really see come around in these tournaments too often, and now in the playoffs and with the opportunity to win. So definitely a good hand of dicey matchups to watch. We'll follow up with the lines in a bit. But before we go, we got the Reload Play of the Week. This is our new segment that we're going to be trying to implement every week on our live broadcast. So let's just take it away right now.
Seconds to spare. Oh, and Voltage just stomped his way through the vents. He needs... What? What? He just snapped. It seemed like 360 degrees.
I don't know what to say about this. Do you? I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Through the vents with the AWP wallbang. I mean, what? Excuse me? What was that? That was dirty. We're going to need to come in and check that player's computer out, see if he's using some kind of software there. Anyway, that's our play of the week. Props to them. Didn't happen to put down the name, but, cheers to that. that'll do it for this episode of Reload, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, if you're happy with the way things are going, follow the Reload on Twitter at the Reload FM or UGC Events for producing this show and the many others we're rolling out. You could stay tuned with them and everything we're doing here at UGC Events. Huge shout out to them. None of this would be possible. And thank you guys for coming in and watching the Reload every week. We try to make it a little bit bigger and badder and edgier each week. So we try to keep things fresh and interesting. You know, not that suit and tie proper CSGO you see here and there on the broadcast. We like to keep things cool because CSGO is a cool sport. So thank you guys for watching as always. And before we go, we're just going to roll the top lines provided by our guys at Sick Odds. So if you plan on doing any betting on the event, here are the best lines to look with a little bit of bonus information on them. My name is Cody Luongo, and I will see you next week.